Welcome to Super Entrepreneurs Podcast. We have with us here Ed Vincent. And we always like to allow our guests, Ed, to kind of, in their own words, to introduce themselves, what you're up to nowadays, and we'll kind of go with the stream of discussion here.
Sure. So name is Ed Vincent. Been an entrepreneur for over 25 years. Have had multiple companies along the way. Currently working on Festival Pass, which is a subscription marketplace in the live event space. And I suspect that you'll be digging in not only to my current business, but all the other ones along the way that we successfully built and exited.
That's awesome. And so it's basically this, what would you call it? Live, sorry, what was it again? Event?
Yeah, so it's called Festival Pass, and
Pass.
Yes, it's a subscription live events marketplace. So what it means is that our members, they sign up and they pay a monthly fee, and they get credits, and with those credits, they can redeem them for about 80,000 live events. So everything from the best concert that you want to go to any kind of festival, to any sporting event, any football, baseball, basketball game you can imagine, Broadway theater, all the above.
So when did you start working on this startup?
Sure. A couple of years back, we just began to launch it right before the pandemic. And then the silver lining is while all the live events shut down, we had time to build some technology and to build, we always new live events would come back. So we just kept pushing through. It's a $200 billion industry that hasn't really been innovated on in a very long time. So we knew that we were just going to push through to the other side. A lot of people pivoted to live streamed events. And it's not that we won't participate in that a little bit in the future, but we're very core to how special it is to physically be at a live event.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was asking because, during when all this pandemic and COVID stuff happened, a lot of people were confused and worried and stressed out. And then knowing that you're working on a startup about live events, right? Like what kind of toll it took on your mindset, but you definitely had what did you go through? What were you thinking, and how did you keep on track to continue with this?
Yeah, a lot of it comes, the context of the business is something that, kind of been working on for 20 years, because all my other businesses all touched upon what we're doing today a little bit. And I can give you some background and then kind of answer your core question. But, I was an investment banker until 1999 in New York, and left to start my first e-commerce business. I had an e-commerce business, which then we sold in 2001. So I understood the power of selling online on the internet, moved into an agency, had about a 70-person experiential agency throughout the 2000s. And what that meant is we brought a lot of big brands into big, large events. So, dozens of staple brands you might know, whether they were alcohol brands or consumer product brands, engaging and activating at big concerts, big festivals. We helped launch a number of film festivals. We even owned one down in the Dominican Republic. It was the Dominican Republic International Film Festival. We built a co-branded hotel with Maxim Magazine down there. So it was really that's where I kind of fell in love with live events. Fast forward to, 2010 through 2014, I built a SaaS business in the retail franchise and multi-unit space, but that was where I learned about effectively subscription recurring revenue. And then following that, a data and analytics company. We sold that in 2014, the SaaS business, and then had a data and analytics company in the entertainment world called Predict Analytics. And, we really helped some of the biggest television brands in the world, A&E Networks, AMC Networks, Corus Entertainment out of Canada, movietickets.com, Screen, all these companies, we helped them understand their consumer data strategy and execution. And that all led to I was brought into a company called MoviePass. People might have heard of infamous name in the movie subscription business. But I spent about 18 months as the interim chief data officer, not necessarily a full-time employee, just they hired my company to come in and help them understand data. But it gave perspective to what to do and what not to do in building a subscription-driven marketplace in entertainment. So that led into what we're doing today in Festival Pass. All of those pieces along the way, I knew, back in 2018, 2019, that I wanted to build this business. And I knew it was a $200 billion global business. I knew it had a huge upside and huge opportunity. So that when we started to roll it out, and then the pandemic came, of course, it was like, oh, okay, well, maybe we'll start picking up traction next month. Oh, don't worry, everybody's going to be back in 2 or 3 months. And then, ultimately, luckily, we had some great, early supporters, investors that kind of helped carry us through that time, but stayed strong on vision, right? So we knew at some point live events would be back. We knew that it would give us an opportunity to kind of get the technology ready, as well as build partnerships that can help us build inventory, et cetera. And then that's kind of where we are today. Now, in the last few months, events have been coming back. Events planned for 2022 or double than were planned for 2019. I know we're all going through a little bit of a blip today in terms of Omicron, but I think we'll get past that as well. And now, even on our platform, we have over 80,000 events on the platform. So getting all those partnerships and technology in place to handle that, so that now in 2022, we can really kind of let the consumers of the world really know what we have and why it's different and why it's special.
Yeah, because this industry, the live event industry, there's a lot of media attention on it as well. And they're talking about it being, one of the largest industries in the next 2 or 3 years because of everything that happened, right? So you guys must be excited.
Yeah, so there's a silver lining to everything, right? So it was 2 years of, kind of just staying under the radar and just working, but at the same time, now we're ready to take on what's going to be one of the most explosive industries out there.
And how many members do you guys have now?
On the platform, we have a little over 60,000 members on the platform now, and growing rapidly, every day. And we're going to continue a big marketing push going forward. We expect to have close to 1 million paid and unpaid. There's 2 types of members. By the end of 2022, we're expecting close to 1 million.
So in a journey of a customer or a client on that platform, can you kind of run down like what it is exactly? What are they signing up for, and what are they getting? And if there's competition out there on this?
Yeah, so very much so. So in the world of ticketing, right? So we're an entertainment-driven live events community that has ticketing at its core, right? So we're not a primary ticketing company, and there's hundreds of them out there. You probably know of some like Ticketmaster and others. They're all primary ticketing companies. And then there's also secondary ticketing marketplaces. Some people have heard of StubHub and a few others like that. So in that world, primary and secondary ticketing marketplaces often work together in terms of finding an audience for tickets. So we're neither of the two, but we're a subscription marketplace that gains access to a similar set of tickets, right? So whenever somebody wants to go to something, they will tend to search out, where do I get that ticket? And sometimes they'll buy that ticket directly from a primary ticketing source, like a Ticketmaster, or sometimes they'll go to a secondary ticketing source like a StubHub and end up acquiring that ticket. But there's a lot of things that happen along the way, and some of the larger marketplaces end up charging significant fees, which a lot of people are a little frustrated by in terms of transparency. It's like, hey,
I just bought a ticket for $100, and by the time I check out of my shopping cart, it's $165. And there's a big frustration in the kind of, especially millennial and Gen Z community about, well, why am I paying all these extra fees? What does that mean to me? So that's one pain point that's been there. The second pain point is really this sense of community, right? Most of these ticketing services, they serve a purpose, but they're very transactional, and there's really no brand loyalty to it. It's really, I just want the ticket to what I want to go to. But for us, we want to change a lot of that, right? So we're building a community, a social, frictionless community where people can come and be a member. And by being a member, they're committing to us to paying a subscription fee, and they get credits for that money, right? So if they're paying $20 a month, $50 a month, or upwards of $99 a month, they get a certain amount of credits for it. And they can use those credits to go to any of the events. But what happens is because we're not charging ticketing fees, it's no fees. So the idea is that they're always going to pay less on our platform, because it's kind of a classic model, whereas there's margins that happen within the industry, and we're willing to give some of that margin back to the customer because they're committing to be part of a subscription or a membership. So our members that are paying $99 a month, they're going to save up to 30% on every single ticket they go to, because they're not going to be paying ticketing fees for doing so. So not on top of that, that's just the base. And I'll explain a good analogy for that. But on top of that, it's now, okay, now I'm part of this community. I'm a member. What else do I get? So, we also have 600,000 hotels on our platform where you can get hotel room nights that are cheaper than anywhere else. And then we're building this whole artist platform so you can engage with your favorite music artist or your favorite comedian or your favorite whoever, and have a special relationship within the platform. And that ultimately will also roll into NFTs in the crypto space, which I'm sure you've probably heard a lot of people talk about in coming in 2022. But the point really is, I use this analogy a lot when I'm trying to explain it to people, is, and I'll even ask you personally, is I suspect you are an Amazon Prime member.
My wife is. So I just send her what I need and she orders it for me.
Which makes sense. And the question I always ask people is why, right? There's always a core reason. And 80% of the people, it's almost like Family Feud. It's like a survey says 80% of the people answer the same way. So if you were to guess, what do you think most people join Amazon Prime for?
Purchases.
Well, no shipping fees, right?
Oh yeah, there are no shipping fees. Yes.
Yeah, so that's the biggest thing that people do. They're like, well, I'll pay my $130 a year to access Amazon Prime because I'm never going to pay for shipping.
That's fast delivery.
Yes. Yeah. So the first thing is this big thing about shipping fees, fast delivery. And then on top of it, you get all these other little perks. If you go to Whole Foods, you get discounts. If you want to watch movies, you get free movies. So the idea is there's one thing that's a big pain point, and then everything else are all these extra perks. So once you sign up, you're always getting value and you're not going to want to leave. And one of the reasons that it helps is because from a business perspective is once you're signed up and you're at Amazon and you're already paying that and you're already getting free shipping, the next time you think you need something, you need a hat or you need some Gatorade, what are you going to do? You're going to go to Amazon first and assume if they have it, great, you buy it. If they don't, you might search elsewhere. So think of that same analogy about what we're doing in the entertainment space. So we look at it and say, hey, if you sign up as a subscriber to us, you're never going to pay a ticketing fee. You're never going to pay that extra fee that you get charged. That could, in some places, some services charge up to 65% more in a ticketing fee at the end of the day, and that's a very difficult pill to swallow. So for us, once you sign up and pay your subscription to Festival Pass, whether it's annual or monthly, you already win because you'll never pay a ticketing fee on anything you ever want to go to. You have these credits, which are in your bank, and you can use them on any of the 80,000 events, and you're always going to save money. And you get all this other access, and you save money on hotels, and you get to talk to and hang out with your favorite artists, and you get early access to NFTs. And in the future, you might have special access at an event you go to that has a special section, or you get a meet and greet, or whatever those perks are. We're continuously building all those extra perks. But just like Amazon Prime, it's very similar, right? And we hope that people will join us. And any event they ever want to go to, at least look at Festival Pass first, because we're likely to have 80% of them, just like Amazon would have 80% of all your goods you want to purchase.
So is there anything special for super entrepreneurs, family members, the audience on this membership?
There may be. So
we just sorry to put you on the spot, but
no, we could talk afterwards and give you a code that people can get a discount.
Perfect. Thank you. That's awesome. Always trying to, look out for everyone, but that's an incredible concept. And you mentioned that point system, right? Is this some kind of relationship you had to create or develop with the live event organizers to be able to give you that discount?
So it works in many ways, right? So there's a world of primary. When I say primary, it means either the original ticketers or the venues themselves or the producers or the people that are putting it on. And then there's the secondary market, right? So the secondary market means the people that put the event on have already sold it to somebody or some group, and then that somebody or some group is reselling it, to somebody else. So in that secondary market, there's a lot of fees, and that's what I was referring to, the 65% fees and all that. So on the secondary side, we're saving them a lot of those transaction fees. On the primary side, we are working directly with a lot of individual producers, venues, festivals themselves, in order to have them provide our members some level of a discount so that we can pass that along to our members. So, and as we get bigger and over time, it's going to get more and more beneficial to our members, because we'll have a little more purchasing power, and we'll be able to even, pre-buy thousands of tickets for very popular events at a discount for our members, because it's always interesting. A lot of people forget in the ecosystem of any business, it's just like the financial world. There's certainty and there's risk. And whenever you take risk off the table, people are willing to take less money for reduced risk. So what I mean by that, and I assume it's a business podcast, so I assume a lot of people here kind of get that whole perspective. But even in the finance world, if somebody was an investment bank was going to help a company raise $100 million and they commit to doing it, often they'll take on that $100 million and then they'll syndicate out a large portion of that to other banks, institutions, or whatever it is, because they're going to take risk off the table. So when you think of a big event, let's say there's an annual festival, even though we're not just festivals, we're all events. But let's say, or you might be a tour, a concert tour, an artist, or a comedy tour. When somebody's starting that tour, they don't know if it's going to sell out or not, right? So there's risk involved to putting a live event on, because they may sell out or they may not. So if early on in the process, somebody comes in and says, hey, I'm willing to, buy 5,000 of those tickets for an event happening 6 months from now, but I want a 20 or 30% discount, it's likely they may take that because it's reducing their risk of the future of selling out. So it's all a data-driven concept. And for us, we just really want to give our members the best price and the best experience, the best frictionless community to get together.
Yeah. That's excellent. And yes, the podcast, the audience is a mix, right? Like people that are, 9 to 5, they're kind of like looking out the window, seeing what's up with this entrepreneurship stuff. And maybe they might take the leap. And then we have, seasoned entrepreneurs, we have investors. So my next question would be, if anybody wants to come in to this startup, is there open to investment at this point, or is it all closed?
Yeah, so it's an interesting question, and I've even written some articles about how to finance the company, and it's an interesting thing. So at the end of the day, we want to build the company and we want to build it fast. So obviously you need capital to do so. We're lucky enough to have had some really brilliant entrepreneurs already invest, and that's more at the angel level, 100, 250 grand a piece. That's people like the co-founder of HomeAway, VRBO, invested. I have a professional hockey player that's invested. 10 other entrepreneurs that have all exited $100 million companies have invested. So there's a great community, the CEO of Alamo Drafthouse, and it goes on and on. But so the answer is we have a lot of these great people that supported us early on. And we have a lot of venture capitalists that are super interested in what we're doing. And I've tried to hold off on the VC side for a while, just in order to maintain control and direction of where we're going to take the company. But one, if the right venture capitalists, and we're talking to dozens of them right now, if we find the right partner, we may be willing to take institutional capital. But on the individual investor side, is up until the point we choose to do that institutional round, we are willing to take, $50,000 to $250,000 investments up to a certain level from individual investors. And there's also, I can go on and on. There's so much that's interesting about this. There's a ton of low cost debt options out there that didn't exist 5 years ago today that are really fascinating, especially for SaaS-based recurring revenue businesses. So, we will explore that down the road in order not dilute our early investors. And then the last thing is we did test early on, even before we started having events on the platform, a little bit of a crowdfund campaign. And it was kind of fun to do because, for me, it's all about democratization of letting people who are members actually get to invest in the company too. So we did a campaign over the summer, raised a couple $100,000 from that, but it was really more of a test just to see, hey, if I'm going to come and be a member, and I can throw a few $100s in and invest in the company too, that sounds pretty fun. And I think personally, I think in the next year or two, there's going to be a lot of liquidity in the non-public, or call it private marketplace for, small to mid-sized companies. So it's we're testing the waters to, as we have 1 million subscribers and, call it hundreds of thousands of them as paid subscribers. I think there's an opportunity for many of them also to be owners, even if it's only, hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars each.
Oh, that's excellent. Well, I do hear the passion in your voice. Like, you've been doing this startup game for a while now, obviously. And, it's incredible journey, and to be able to exit successfully, I commend you for that, and that's great. Amazing. Was it my next question is like, did you always have this kind of spirit in you growing up for business?
Yeah. I mean, I always knew I was going to be an entrepreneur. There was ever since I was, pumping gas when I was a 13-year-old, that when I wasn't allowed to be, in my college dorm room, I was a real estate appraiser. I actually had my own business valuing homes out of my college dorm room. But fast forward is I ended up going the traditional banking route, and it was only for a period of 3 or 4 years. And it was because that's what I thought I was supposed to do. I went to a state school in New Jersey, and I was a finance major, and I was like, across the river up there in New York, that's where all the investment bankers live. That's the holy grail. That's what I'm supposed to do, until I got there and was an investment banker. And I was like, well, this is great, but we're basically a service provider and helping finance companies, where the fun part is operating the company. So I was like, I want to be over there operating the company. And that kind of started me to launch my first business in 1999 and kind of go from there. But yes, I've always had an entrepreneurial bent, and I haven't actually had a job since 1999.
Amazing. I love that. And what about mindset? Like, how did you ever have to deal with, the voice inside, right? Did you ever have to deal with that stuff, or were you were always like, go, and never affected you? How was your mindset throughout this?
Yeah, I mean, it's some people who are entrepreneurs will say it's a disease, one you can't shake. So, there's always ups and downs, and there's been plenty along the way for me as well. I mean, my first business, after we sold it, I was still working at the business, and 9/11 happened. And so there was a big, decrease in the value of what I thought I was worth in terms of money, because it kind of blew everything up, literally and figuratively. But then, going forward, there was, in 2008 was the Great Recession, when I had my agency, and, we went from huge clients, paying us millions of dollars a year in marketing spend to people all of a sudden cutting their budgets. So they had to, work through that. Anyway, there's these events in life where you can't predict. And then all of a sudden you realize that, oh, okay, well, we have to, pivot, hold tight, and wait till the storm passes and then get back at it.
Mm-hmm. But was there anything internally that you had to work on or anything? Or is it just, you just went with the flow and said, oh, it is what it is, let's just see what tomorrow brings? Or did you actually have to work on those situations?
Yes, of course. I think it's just like because I've weathered storms, now it's easier to weather other ones, because you kind of have this feeling that if something's difficult, eventually keep at it. Eventually a crack of a door will open. Eventually something will happen. Eventually, it's that old adage is you don't fail until you quit. And then, the idea that it's easier now to push forward, knowing that there's always opportunity. But yes, I've been through that place, and now the pandemic is a perfect example. I had no idea that launching a live events business in the beginning of a pandemic was gonna make sense. But there's a. You ever hear the story of the Taoist farmer? It's just a classic story of, is something good or is something bad? Maybe. And the story goes that, I'll go through it quickly. It might take too long if I tell the whole story, but there's a farmer, a Taoist farmer, and basically one day his horse runs away and his neighbors come running up to him. Oh my gosh, what bad luck you have there. Your horse ran away. And he's like, maybe. So then the next day comes and that horse is out in the wild and ends up bringing 4 or 5 other friends back. And now this Taoist farmer has 5 horses to work his farm, and his neighbors are coming up. Oh, what great luck you have. Maybe. The next day his son's out riding that horse and he falls off and breaks his leg, and his neighbors come running up. Oh my gosh, what bad luck you have. Your son broke his leg. And maybe. Later the next day, the army comes by and says, hey, we're recruiting everybody over 18 to come out to the army. Oh, but he has a broken leg. He can't come. Oh, what good luck you have. Your son is saved. Maybe. So anyway, it's just a whole story of life that says things will happen. And as they happen, it is what it is. And as long as you kind of embrace it and go with it, eventually you can find the path to make it successful.
Yeah. And Ed, that key word was embrace. And I think that's the part that is that key component. When we embrace it, we accept it as is, it just becomes tremendously easy. You know what I mean? When you're trying to fight it and you're pushing through it, that's when it gets really chaotic for you, right?
I agree.
Yeah. And, we always like to ask our guest what their inner superpower is that got them to this point. You exited out of $100 million companies and all that. So just want to know what is that inside you that you feel that maybe it's your superpower that got you to this point?
I guess just determination. Just the acceptance of and determination for, and don't get me wrong. I mean, there's a lot of broken glass on the way to success. So, there's a lot of ups and downs along the way. So there's the idea is that I think one of the things I realized, right, is that especially in the early internet 1.0, sometimes luck is what created success, right? So it's the idea that, just because your buddy just sold his company for hundreds of millions of dollars and you didn't, doesn't mean he's any better than you or he did anything. Yeah. So it's like the idea that, you ever being from New York, this analogy is easier, but when you go to see a Broadway singer, and this works for any music, right? The guy on stage or the girl on stage is amazing, but there's also 300 other people just as amazing that didn't get that job. So the reality is it's kind of like, it goes back to a favorite poem I have called "If" by Rudyard Kipling, and just without paraphrasing a little bit, it's just don't think you're that good if you're successful, and don't think you're that bad if you're not. It's if you can walk with kings and keep your common virtue, and never lose your common touch. But just simply the idea that just because something worked out doesn't mean you were so brilliant that made it happen. And just because something didn't work out doesn't mean you're a failure.
Excellent. Excellent. And, my next question is, there may be someone in the audience maybe wondering, have you met any celebrities? Have you worked with personally any celebrities?
A ton. I mean, met throughout my life. Yes, a ton. And, like I don't know which story to even tell, but it just, growing
Anything,
up,
just pick one.
No, I just hanging out in New York in my 20s, there was a celebrity. Every time you go out to a restaurant, there's celebrities. And,
well, I mean, from your business, like from all the startups there.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, and when we had our, film festivals, right? We would have celebrities would come to our film festivals all the time. And even in the Dominican Republic, it was more the B and C list celebrities versus the A list, but we just had a lot of fun. And, I just remember one of my best guests down there was Anthony Anderson. If anybody knows who he is, he's a Black comedian. That's just a ton of fun. And he was respectful and fun and happy. But, there's in the old school, people might know Judge Reinhold from, what's that movie? I forget the movie right now. Anyway, I'll remember it. But and then we also, with Maxim magazine, you can imagine there was always a ton of celebrities around. We held Miss Maxim World down in the Dominican Republic for a summer, where they sent their cover models from every country in the world to come and compete in some contest down there. That was interesting and fun. And even today, we have a bunch of really great young Hollywood actors that are influencers that are helping us grow. If anybody knows, like a kids show, Max Thunderman, the guy that played the lead, his name is Jack Griffo. So you're looking because your kids probably watch it.
Yeah, because that name ring a bell because they watch all that stuff, right? So
yeah, so
not sure exactly who it is.
He was a teen kid actor, and now he's 25, 26, and he's has been in a bunch of films, and we have a partnership with him, helping promote some of the stuff we do for Festival Pass, and he's in a band. So, we're going to help promote some of his band as he goes forward, and it just goes on and on. There's a lot of great relationships that happen in that way.
Well, I can tell that definitely you are someone that can definitely leave an impression in a relationship realm. And, you are wise. You have that information because of that experience, right? Would you be open to any startup idea from anybody that wanted, from your experience, because of all the experience that you went through to startup, to pitch their idea to you?
Yeah, I mean, always open to help any entrepreneur in any way I can. Obviously, right now I'm focused on building what we do at Festival Pass out because it's still early stage. But yes, I'm always. I think the entrepreneurial community is amazing. Like even I live in Austin, Texas right now, and I moved here about a year and a half ago, and I was immediately was able to tap into the entrepreneurial community here and appreciate what people have done for me, and I'm always happy to do it for anybody else.
That's great, Ed. Thank you so much. And are there any last final words that you would like to share with the audience?
No, I mean, I think I encourage everybody to follow their passion, right? So if you have an idea, make sure it's something you're passionate about, something you really enjoy, something you really want to spend your time on. I've always tried to work in businesses where I really enjoyed the work, as opposed to, build the business just so I could own a business. There's a lot of different businesses and ideas out there, whether it's, healthcare or the crypto world or, you name finance or space. There's a million things to do. You should pick the one that everybody loves.
Beautiful. Thank you for those last words, final words, not last, final words for today. And, for the audience, this is live obvious right now, but once we are done with the editing, it'll be published and all Ed's links and all the contact information, everything that he's working on will be available, but it's quite easy. You can also Google Ed Vincent, and this information is there on the first page that if you need to, sign up with this and be excited for everything starting to open up. So getting that kind of subscription is great, right? If you're in that ticket world and you want entertainment, especially going to live events, you heard it from the man. So, Ed, thank you again. I appreciate you. And, anytime you're in Toronto, Canada, definitely send me a message. Anywhere I can help, it would be my pleasure. And thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show today.
Sure. And I'll just say that festivalpass.com is the address if people want to go to it, and you can sign up for free. You don't have to immediately be a paid subscriber. You can sign up for free and be on the site. And when you're ready to become a paid subscriber, you can do that. And then the last thing you mentioned, from the investment side, if there ever is somebody out there that is seriously interested, they can always send an email to invest.festivalpass or invest@festivalpass.com if they're interested in learning more. But it's eventually we'll do another crowdfunding thing so people can invest smaller amounts. But anybody that might be interested, it's more of that kind of over 50,000 is all we're really looking at now.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing that. And again, I'm grateful for you to come on the show. And again, thank you so much for your time, and have an amazing day and the rest of the week.
I appreciate it. And I love the fireplace.
Oh, thank you so much. I love the money plant.